So the Business Statistics Code B333, first semester of school year 2021 to 2022. So the Data Analysis Report on Lamotay's Money Lending Business. So the authors are Magno Hilary Judd, Binayo Leilani, Dehay Hannah Claire. So the instructor is Mr. Alfeo B. Tulang. So the data collection method used. So this analysis report uses primary as data collection tool. So the method used in collecting data is continuous method to determine the effectiveness of the informal money lending business and what amount the customers borrowed. So this analysis report will be done through interview of the borrowers, which will be carried out face to face. So this method seeks to describe and understand how much amount of money borrowed and growth of informal lending business. So the local. So this study will be conducted in Malaybalay City, Bukidnon, Philippines. So the borrowers will be interviewed face-to-face in their house or any comfortable place. So this study will be conducted in the first semester of the academic year 2021 to 2022. So the sampling method. The sampling method used is simple random sampling. We selected 15 individuals who borrow money from the business. So the questionnaire and interview used to gather information for this analysis is an open-ended questions. So the instrumentation. So the instrumentation used in this analysis report was divided in two parts. The first part answers how many times they have borrowed from the business, and the second part is how much they have borrowed from the business. So the data organization used. So a questionnaire type of survey is used by providing answers in the blank. So these are the data we have gathered from the borrowers. So the data needed were obtained from the respondents. So our organizing and tabulating were made is in the following. So the statistical test of the hypothesis. So the parametric statistics we use is pair t-test. So this analysis report aims to know the effectiveness of money lending business by how frequently the customers borrow from the business and how much they have borrowed. So we take samples of 15 individuals who borrowed money from the business.
Hypothesis testing use. We will perform the paired samples t-test with this following hypothesis. This is the summary of the result. T-test paired two sample for means. The mean, variance, observations, Pearson correlation, hypothesize mean difference, degrees of freedom, p-value for a two-tailed test, the critical two-tail. This is the mean for each sample. The mean who borrowed for the first time is 4,566.67 and the mean who borrowed for the second time is 5,533.33. This is the variance for each sample. The variance who borrowed for the first time is 3,995,238.095 and the variance who borrowed for the second time is 4,016,666.667. This is the number of observations in each sample. Both samples have 15 observations. The correlation between the pre-test scores and post-test scores, it turns out to be 0.722. The number that we hypothesize is the difference between the two means. In this case, we choose 0 because we want to test the effectiveness of money lending business, whether or not there is any difference. The degrees of freedom for the t-test, this is calculated as n-1, where n is the number of pairs. In this case, degrees of freedom is equal to 15 minus 1 equal 14.
The test statistics T, which turns out to be 2.51. The two-tail, the p-value for a two-tail t-test. In this case, p is equal to 0.025146,114. This is smaller than alpha is equal to 0.05. So we reject the null hypothesis. we have sufficient evidence to say that there is a statistically significant difference between the mean pre-test and post-test score. T-critical two-tail. This is the critical value of the test found by identifying the value in the t-distribution table that corresponds with a two-tailed test with alpha is equal to 0.05 and df is equal to 14. This turns out to be 2.144786688. Since the absolute value of our test statistics is greater than this value, we reject the null hypothesis. We have sufficient evidence to say that there is a statistically significant difference between the mean who borrowed for the first and second time. Conclusion. Since this p-value is less than our significance level of alpha is equal to 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis. We have sufficient evidence to say that the mean who borrowed for the first and second time is different. This shows that Conclusion. Since this p-value is less than Conclusion. Since this p-value is less than our significance value, Conclusion. Since this p-value is less than our significance level of alpha is equal to 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis. We have sufficient evidence to say that the mean who borrowed for the first and second time is different. This shows the effectiveness of money lending business because of the difference of the first and second, which shows that they have borrowed bigger amount than before. During these difficult times, many individuals will look to those in the money lending sector for assistance, as it is a method to help maintain their families, to support their financial needs of entrepreneur, and to ease poverty. The goal of this study is to determine the effectiveness of informal money lending to entrepreneurs.